Do I like being from Montana? I love living in Montana. I think the mountains here are some of the most beautiful in the country, if not the world. I've traveled all across the United States, and I've only found one other place I think that has better mountains than here, and that's the Grand Tetons. And, you know, it's the Grand Tetons. It's hard to compete. But that said, I like the community here. I love the landscape. And I think if I'd grown up anywhere else, I wouldn't have had the same experiences outdoors that I've had here, which have helped enrich my writing. So this has been a great place, you know, and again, the community's been incredibly supportive, so I'm very, very happy to live here and very glad I'm from Montana. Yes?
So do you like comics? And if so, what is your favorite comic series?
Do I like comics? I don't really read a lot of comics. I do read quite a bit of graphic novels when I get my hands on them. I liked Bone. I liked Midnight Nation by John Scalzi. I liked... what am I forgetting here? I've read so many. Liked Y, The Last Man, a bunch of others. So I just, you know, read what I can get my hands on. Yes?
As far as fantasy, what is one of your favorite fantasies that you would have inspired?
What are some of my favorite fantasies that I enjoy reading that inspired me and stuff like that? Well, the Dragon Riders of Pern series by Anne McCaffrey, A Wizard of Earthsea and the two sequels by Ursula K. Le Guin, Magician and the sequels following that by Raymond E. Feist, the Belgaria, the Malorian, and the Elenium, all by David Eddings, the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn trilogy by Tad Williams, Dune by Frank Herbert, the Pit Dragon trilogy by Jane Yolen, Redwall series by Brian Jakes, the Gormenghast trilogy by Mervyn Peake, highly recommended, but you haven't heard of it. The Mabinogion Tetralogy by Evangeline Walton, there's an obscure one. The Worm Ouroboros by E.R. Edison. Did I mention Dune by Frank Herbert? I should mention Dune. And many, many, many others. I'm sure I'm forgetting a few. So I read a lot of fantasy. I love reading fantasy. Recently I just read The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, which I highly recommend, and The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, which I also recommend. Was that enough titles? Okay.
Process for self-publishing?
Can I recommend a process for self-publishing? Step 1, write a book people want to read. Step 2, everything else is easier after step 1. Seriously though, stuff has changed enormously since I self-published. When my family and I self-published, ebooks didn't really exist. You know, all of the stuff with the ebook readers, all of that just wasn't even available. So I think if I were to self-publish now, that's what I would do. We used a print-on-demand company, and that worked really well for us. But mainly, the most important thing if you're going to self-publish is make it as professional-looking as you can and get a lot of editing, because you'll learn more from editing than you ever will from writing. I guarantee it. Yes? Are there any words in the ancient language that are like complete gibberish? No, because all of the words mean something to the speakers of that language, so there's no gibberish in the language. However, there are certain words that I just came up with by throwing random sounds on the page. So yes and no. Yes?
I'm curious about your creative process, and if one of the 4 books took longer than the others, or kind of talk about that a little bit, start to finish.
Did any of the books take longer than the others? Creative process, how did that work? Aragon was the fastest book to write and the longest book to edit. Eldest was not that long to write or to edit. I mean, it took a little while, but mainly it took a while between Aragon and Eldest because I was on a tour for so long. I did 4 different tours for Aragon between the self-published and Random House. Brissinger took a while because it was a big book. Inheritance took the same amount of time as Brissinger, but it's a bigger book, and I wrote it in the same amount of time, so I became a faster writer. Ha! I'll keep telling myself that. Mainly the thing is I've discovered a lot of tricks with writing. I'd probably bore you if I told you all of them, but the main thing with writing over time is you just keep writing, and once you've written about 1 million words, you find that you have solved the same problem so many times in your fiction. How do you get characters in and out of rooms? How do you deal with jumps in time? How do you construct sentences? How do you deal with adverbs? That you develop your own voice, you develop your own way of saying things, and you get an assuredness that you don't have when you start out. And that only comes through writing a lot and editing a lot. My main writing process is get up and write. And stop in the afternoon to do something else. And the thing is that it's great to have inspiration, to wait for inspiration, but it's better to sit down and work every day. And that's how you get a large book done. I'd love to answer all of your questions here, but I want to make sure we have time to sign the book, so I'll be happy to answer the rest of your questions as you come through the signing line. Before I go to that, I just want to say two more things. First of all, Random House finally twisted my arm and got me onto Twitter. So if any of you want to follow me on Twitter, you can do so at InheritanceCP, and you'll find lots of news as to what I'm up to, including videos of how to shave rabbits and pictures of giant snails and other assorted silliness. Second of all, I just want to again say thank you guys for coming today. Thank you for supporting this series. None of this would be possible without readers like you. And as Aragon himself would say, Sioner Sverdar Sitya Havas. May your swords stay sharp. Thank you.
All right, if you guys would stay patient for just a minute, we're going to go ahead and let Chris get set up over at the table. Over on this side over here,